What's up? It's the Work Podcast, honest podcast for people who work in the music industry. I'm Donnie Slater. I'm here with my co-hosts, Melanie, Mike, and Sabrina. And I want to open up with a fire-ass question I was thinking about in the Uber ride here, which is if y'all could wave a magic wand and change one thing about the music industry, doesn't matter what the fuck it is, it could be anything. You could get rid of CEOs, you could get rid of companies, you could change shit that happened in the past, you got a time machine, you got laser guns, you could change one thing, you got a genie. What would it be? We're going to start with you, Sabrina.
I would change signing for data.
Signing for data?
Yeah.
I
would go back to signing for talent.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting.
So you would erase data from the equation, like from the sign-in equation.
I think you need it, but I wish in in this genie, this lamp, that no record label had access to an artist's data until after they were signed.
They know what their sales were.
I'm saying I wish they didn't.
Oh, like back in the day?
Just in general. I wish everybody that walks into a record label, all they have to gauge whether they want to sign with this person is their image, their visuals, and their music.
Yeah, especially first signings, I guess.
First signings,
I was going to say you're talking about first signings.
Yeah, I'm talking about new signings.
50
how
plus years ago.
How we would start signing artists again today would be you wouldn't be able to unlock the code to their back end until you signed them.
Interesting. Because it's also then the competition amongst A&R and labels is that, being able to tap into talent and culture.
Yeah.
Right.
And then A&Rs would actually have to A&R.
Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum.
Sorry.
Talent. Yeah, I think about Prince. I forget, is it Jeff? What's his name? Jeff Wilson? Owen? Fuck. He was Prince's first manager. I love that clip. He talks about how they had to waste a few albums. And he was like, we couldn't have done that in this day and age. He was like, we couldn't do that. Prince wouldn't have got signed in this day and age. He was like, because you would have to be a thriving business already. Prince didn't have anything.
Exactly.
He just had talent, and we had A&Rs and a chairman at the label that was just willing to take a risk. And we wasted a few albums. The first two Prince albums weren't anything massive. But that third one, changed music. So I get your point. Yeah. What would you change?
Shit. Come back to me because I have to think about this. Somebody else go.
Chief strategy officer, my ass.
It's a deep-ass question, man.
Man, no, it's not. You could just, who do you hate? Get rid of them. Say their name. Which company? No, I'm playing. Don't do that.
No. Wait, hold on.
Yeah, there you go. I knew the juices would get flowing once I say who you hate.
It was, come on, man. Don't go there. I would flip the script on who gets to lead music companies. Let's call them the CEO roles or the leadership roles or whatever it is. If it's a management company or, touring live, whatever, I'd say you kind of, I guess, mimic sports in a way that usually the best coaches are ones that play the game kind of thing, maybe. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be everybody, but maybe even if the head and helm seat had a right hand or a left hand, that were those people at least, that could kind of balance them out. Because it goes back to what you just said. If you're signing for talent, then you're shaping culture not based on numbers. Decision-making usually happens when there's disruption from top to bottom is still sticking to numbers, right? It's not thinking well, we believe in this. Well, actually, fuck that. Who the hell says anymore we believe in this?
Yeah.
It's not believe, it's I need this, and then top down. So I'd say, there's probably other things that I would magic wand. But I'd say that because last 2 years, any opportunity, music, tech, whatever, everything in between, legislation, policy, all this shit, I feel like the decision makers are just not moving for self-preservation. So and that's normal. That's everything. That's any industry, right? Self-preservation. Everyone, us are guilty of at some point we're making decisions, right? But there's that moment where you believe in something enough that you go, the Prince thing, right? Someone sticks with that because of that person or the record or label or the tour, whatever it is, because they're you know what? There's something there. I mean, shit, this podcast, there's something there. Give it enough time, it'll become the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Top down.
Melanie?
I would kind of create a system that, like, the early supporters, whether it's like a college radio show or music journalists, maybe not necessarily fans, but people who actually like amplify it. I don't know, I'm not saying they're gonna get points, but like somehow they are respected more and supported more in the long-term journey. Because like you have some examples of like, okay, there was a label that, you know, Lotto was on, and then she was on that Lotto, and then she signed to RCA, and okay, they're getting a cut, but that's like a label. You know, you have developmental deals, but I think oftentimes there's a big infrastructure, whether it's like content platforms, radio, you know, journalists, that they are part of developing someone's story. And the first ones that actually like see what someone's special about them before maybe a management, agent, label gets involved. But usually those people I know personally, they had to pivot eventually because no one tracks this. No one like, you know, rewards these people. And they might have been behind a lot of great things, and maybe they might become an executive, but like if they don't become an executive and start their own label, often they're just not getting the respect they deserve. So that's what I care the most about.
That's interesting. Like what you both said kind of loosely is tied to each other, right? Like what if the data to sign was closer to something that you're describing that actually is almost...
And to me, that is the data.
Yeah.
That's
You know?
like because the
That's
data
A&R, right?
Yeah, because the data you're talking about is general audience bullshit. So people just looking for big numbers.
Yeah.
Where you're talking about like deep, valuable, maybe numbers or data. Like that's the difference,
Yeah,
right?
like I know people now who are like killing it at labels like at Alamo, like my friend Darmic, and I met him when he had a radio show at NYU. Like, to me, I consider that data because I know him because I managed someone and I reached out to him to do an interview. And to me, there was data points based of what he was playing on his radio show and who he was interviewing. So it's no shock to me that he's like, to me, one of like the smartest people I know in the industry who's like literally working with Rod Wave on the Center soundtrack, right? Like that's not shocking because I saw what he was still doing at university. Right. So like I quantify that in my own type of way, but I feel like maybe the average person does, but like that's my data personally.
Yeah. I agree.
I like it. What do you get? Huh?
You.
Oh.
Yeah, what about you?
What the fuck is that?
You.
It's funny, when I wrote the questions, I didn't think about my answers. I was just like, these are great questions. I recently had a meeting in LA with this guy, Ace, who's like really dope. He worked with like Logic. He manages some really cool artists. I won't name too much. We were just hanging out. If I could wave a magic wand, I would like undo the voodoo of whatever the fuck makes everybody think that we're not in the best time of music right now. Like I feel like there's like, he was talking and we were like going back and forth. And I was like, when the fuck was this like Jedi Republic that you're talking about? Like when did that exist? Like I don't like, just sticking with a Star Wars analogy, it's like there was a Jedi Republic and there was a time where Jedis like were important and then there was a council and like people respected them. When the fuck were artists ever that? Like what do you want to go back to? Like why are we so nostalgic about a time where everybody was getting fucked and indie artists didn't have a shot at all? Like I'm telling him this. I'm like, bro, I'm from Savannah. Like people, I was 16 years old, 15 years old, getting paid $100 to pass out flyers and post up posters around the city for like local bands, and they would perform at a dive bar, and it'd be like 75 people that showed up, and they were happy. Like the band was happy, and then they would go to Statesboro, fuck with Georgia Southern, they go to Valdosta, they go to Athens, and they were broke, and they were sleeping like a van, and they were dirty and stinky, and that was what they did, and they liked that. And then like they, you know, built an economy off of that. They didn't have Spotify in that equation or Instagram to do any of the marketing. So what the fuck golden age are y'all talking about where it's like, oh, use the, like, it's like everybody's like, this is like this dark, like the empire is here now shit, as if prior to now we were Jedis and fucking just were waving lightsabers around. Like it's never been a time where indie artists were like thriving. You know what I'm saying? Like what the fuck are y'all talking about? We are in the best time ever to just get get busy, like just to get active, like to get popping, like you can be a Russ, like that shit's real. You know what I'm saying? Like, so every time I talk to artists, it's like, well, you know, you only make money on touring, and like, you know, these companies are kicking everybody out, and now streaming's here, so you can't even make money off of streams. And it's like, well, bitch, go sell the CD. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Go sell a thing. It's always been that way.
I agree.
You've never made money on the road. You never made money on the road. I don't care what you're talking about. Most of y'all never made money on the road. Before Live Nation, after Live Nation, you were not going to make any money on the road anyways, because you were going to rent a 16-passenger van. You were going to put a fucking drum set in the back. Y'all were going to wash it like a Planet Fitness. Y'all were going to get back in the car after you perform and go back with like $50 and be a barista. That's always been the way it is. This is the only time now that it's like 50 platforms that raised $1 billion to help you monetize that and make a real life. So it's like, we're actually at the beginning of the Jedi Council, to me.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to the Empire striking back yet. We haven't even hit that point yet. The Empire's actually collapsed. Like,
well, yeah, I mean,
Spotify killed the Empire. Or Napster and LimeWire killed the Empire. You know what I mean? P2P ruined the Empire.
It's almost like, I mean, now we're just going to get like super philosophical, but it's almost... No. Here we go.
I like it.
No, but it's almost, it's easier to get lost, and you knew where the control was because there was so much gating back in the day. Mm-hmm. Just the devil's advocate, what you just said. Mm-hmm. And because there was like, you knew where you had to go and who you had to pitch and what wall you had to break down because there was only so many. Mm-hmm. There's so much going on that I think everyone's losing some amount of control, that you don't know where to focus. But to your point, if you start to have a team around you and you have direction, like what you were talking about before this, you kind of have an avenue, you have a direction. You're like, all right, that's clear enough. Let's just go. It's calculated risk. Go, right? Otherwise, you would have just been doing everything you said as a band, as an act, as an artist. So like, yeah, you know what it is? It's almost like, it does feel like you don't know you're in a good period, in a good era until it's gone.
Yeah.
And I was walking to the pod today, and you know, a lifetime ago, 5 million years ago, when I was in bands or whatever the shit, I didn't know at the time when I was going to rehearsals, I was doing shows, or doing these things, like how much I loved it, but I wasn't thankful of enough. And then after the fact, I appreciated it, and then you grow and you do other things. But I think it's then you grow when you do other things. Nothing is valueless, even if you do everything that you said you experienced. You try the streaming success and it fails because you're competing against everyone. You're doing the live, the shows, the CD, the merch, whatever. Like, you have to find the avenue. But I mean, I think it's so easy to get lost, man. Like, it's just...
Lost in what, though, is what I guess...
Every fucking thing.
Everybody feels this way.
Yes.
I talk to artists. It's like the inflections in their voice, like... I talk to managers.
Well, that's...
I talk to label heads, like... You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody's talking... And I'm like, all right, let's go back in the past. Let's go print 50,000 vinyls to sell 50,000 vinyls, which isn't even going to make you copper.
Yeah.
You're fuck gold. You're not going to be silver. That was a time. Like, I managed my friend Jay. He moved to Savannah from Huntsville, Alabama. He could rap his ass off. He recorded himself with a home mic, and then I spent like $50 going to Walmart to get CDRs, and I had a CD burner, and I just kept burning the same fucking CD, and then we sold them at the lunchroom. No kid will know what that experience is like. They shouldn't. It's better now, because now they just put it on SoundCloud, and then the whole school heard it. So nobody has to spend $30 to go get the CDs printed up. So when I'm talking to people, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
But there's whatever the version of you doing the CDRs, someone should be doing that, whatever that is.
It's the streetwear kids. It's streetwear kids.
There's another way of
say. Like, they are. They're on TikTok. They're on Sound. Like, to me, again, what I'm saying is that, like...
Yeah, leverage TikTok shop.
It sounds like people don't realize they were a part of the Empire, and they actually missed the Empire, and they don't want the Jedi Council to actually start. Yeah. That's how I feel. Because I'm like, wait, what fucking golden era did you have? It's like Make America Great Again. I don't want to get too political, but I'm just saying, it's just like, well, what fucking America are you talking about? Because this shit ain't never been like tight for everybody. Like what music industry was good? Like it was like 5 superstars. They were signed to one label and they had $10 million put behind them. And then there was everybody else. And it was a cool party called the Grammys, and they kept making it cooler, and you couldn't get in if you weren't there. And I feel like now the empire is like dying and doing a Jedi mind trick or like a fucking Sith mind trick to make everybody be like, no, it still matters. Oh, the Grammys. See? Doechii. See? You can be like Doechii. Be like Doechii. Sign. You know what I'm saying? And they're trying to trick you into thinking that like this is better. And it's like, no, they're dying, bro. Like they're bleeding the fuck out. It's bad.
That goes back to the control.
And this Suno shit, and we'll segue into the AI shit, but like this AI shit, like technology is just like the force, bro, and it's just whipping the empire's ass, and we keep letting it trick people into like, man, I wish it was like in the 70s when like fucking, or like in the 90s when Jay-Z and Rockefeller, and it's like, bro, do you realize they were selling CDs out the trunk? You motherfuckers don't even sell anything. Y'all don't have a heart to get in a car and play music in the park and just make people like your shit. You don't perform in the subway stations. Jay was really doing that. I tell everybody on our label, like, people will be like, oh, I'll be like, stop saying Jay-Z's name on calls with me. If you rap, don't say Jay-Z's name. Just eliminate it. None of y'all are Jay-Z. You don't have the hustle. You don't get it. This motherfucker really was moving units. Like,
that's why he was a millionaire.
Bruh. It's a reason. He's who he is. Yeah. You ain't that, motherfucker. You got Spotify. You got a phone. You got 10 motherfuckers down to shoot a music video for free. You got YouTube. You got people you can DM. You can get support on these platforms. You can get a fucking billboard in Times Square. You can do a distribution deal with Tulos or hella motherfuckers. And you talking like, Jay-Z was talking like we about to get it then. So now it's like, bro, it ain't even, we playing Grand Theft Auto with the cheat codes. Like, what are you talking about? So that would be my like, don't like, like every meeting I'm in, I'm just like, change the tone. Like, it's too, you sound like losers. Like, it's this like make the empire great again shit. And I'm like, bro, we got Jedis now. We got Casanat. We got streamers. We got TikTok. We got Danny going viral on a whim. Like, we don't know that's gonna happen. That's just, we trying shit. We just doing shit.
I think though, what Mike's trying to say with the like, it's easy to get lost. I think the downside to it, and it's funny because your answer and my answer were kind of like polar opposites. But like, I agree with you, you agree with me.
Right.
The thing about, and like, I wouldn't change social media, like, which maybe contradicts what I'm saying, but I think social media is like an amazing tool. The problem is overconsumption, and now there's so much that it's like, how do you get heard above all the noise? Like, now, yes, there is TikTok, there is billboards, there is Instagram, there's streaming, but now it's like so much.
But like, heard by who? Like,
but then that goes back to my point, right? Like, if you actually acknowledge the tastemakers, if you actually acknowledge the curators, there's not a lot of noise, right? I'll give you the rule book. Like, Colors doesn't just do videos. They have a website. They post a few things, artists from around the world. I love Clash magazine. They have great playlists, blah, blah, blah. Like, I follow some, influencer people on Twitter that, like, I know they're getting paid, but they post really good stuff. I think there's not enough curators. And if I'm really honest, I don't think there's enough people in places of position that acknowledges curators. Like, for example, like, Laura's in her album cycle right now. One of my favorite curators, Derek G., he, like, started on TikTok. He does stuff on Instagram, and, like, he just really great taste in music. She had an interview with Derek G.
Yeah.
To me, that shows, like, what her team is focusing on. It shows me what type of album she's trying to make, So, like, but the thing is, I can't walk into a lot of rooms, and I can talk about Derek G. So it's kind of like, I think there's a lot of music, but the people who are kind of, like, putting it in bite-sized pieces, like, I feel like people aren't focusing on those people. And I can't tell you why, because that's been who I was since high school, but I feel like that makes it easier to digest all the stuff going on if you kind of figure out what you truly like, what lanes do you actually fall into, not what you say you do, but what you actually care about, and then follow the 5 people, publications or whatever, and just focus on that. And then, like, target those platforms.
I think 2 thoughts. One is overconsumption, I think also can be said for curators. I think, like, if you go on TikTok, there's like 1 million kids being like, these are the 5 R&B songs you got to add to your playlist right now. So that also, I think, as a consumer, it's like, who do you listen to? Obviously, you can listen to the Pitchforks of the world, but even like the Pitchforks have now become hard to reach for like the average artist. So I think, and then to that point, it's also like,
I don't think everyone's a Pitchfork artist, and they don't acknowledge that.
No, 100%. But for the,
I think that's my go-to. You like back to my point number 1. You got to know who you are.
No, 100%.
You know what I mean? And I think it's like if you are Pitchfork core, you probably got to co-sign from these 15 or 3 other things that are like before Pitchfork, and they'll care about that. But a lot of people are hitting up Pitchfork or this or that, and that's not really their bag.
Yeah. But I also think that we live in an era of creators being these tastemakers, and it also comes down to money. It's like labels are paying our generation, or they're paying Kids Take Over, whatever it is, to push whatever they want to push. So it's also like, again, like there's so much consumption, and then it's like it does come down to like what you have access and can afford, which again takes away from the fun of like just finding talent that you want to hear, or like great music that you want to hear. So
it just feels like comic book. Like I just, and I'll wrap it up so we can get into the AI stuff. But like the point of what I was saying about waving that magic wand and what it is just like, it just feels like there's no other reference point besides like Britney Spears, Ja Rule, Jay-Z, Kanye West, Beyonce.
And I hate it. I hate when people talk like that.
Yeah,
like,
you get what I'm saying though? Like there's this, it's like if you can only compare success to that era, what you don't realize is that that was a really fine, it's always been this many people that wanted to make music. My dad wanted to make music. My dad is just 67 years old and was in Amarillo, Texas, so there was no microphone to go buy from a Best Buy to go do the thing, to become the thing, to put it on the platform, to go get the moment. And he wasn't moving to New York to go do it. But it's always been people who had a desire to make art. And now we're at a point where you can have like micro communities, and you can make money, and you can tour amphitheaters, and nobody, like, I love seeing shows that sell out for motherfuckers I never heard of. And I'm like, damn. And that's why I say it's like comic books. It's like, I look at comic book culture, and it's like, you go to Comic-Con, it's like, man, it's a bunch of motherfuckers that will dress up like Deadpool that really live this shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's supposed to be, we don't have a reference point, so that's why it sounds so doom and gloom, and it seems so confusing. But if you just stop looking over there, there should be no confusion. Talk to the people that like the music. If you get 16 views on a YouTube video, that means it's 16 motherfuckers, or let's say you get 16 unique viewers.
Yeah.
That's 16 motherfuckers that were like, oh, that's tight. That's always been the focus. That, like, forever. It's always been that. It was performers in the marketplace in the 1300s and 1500s and 1700s. It was performers in Greenwich Village and at the subway station that became Bob Dylan. It's still going to be motherfuckers that are performing on the subway stations and the Washington Square Parks of the world. It's still going to be the Dannies and the Potes and the Benjis that are just going to perform in the places with the people that get it. And they make a living with the people who get it. And it's easier now to transact with those people at scale than it's ever been. You were never going to get a Europe listener in Greenwich.
Yeah.
Somebody from Europe had to come to Greenwich because they heard that's where it's at. And they were like, oh, I'm going to take this back to Europe. You were never, Wu-Tang became Wu-Tang because they were calling themselves Wu-Tang Clan, and they were doing all of this Japanese, Chinese shit in their music, and then somebody from Japan was like, oh, I gotta see what the fuck is going on, and then they went and took those records back to Japan, and that created a touring economy and a fan base in Asia for Wu-Tang Clan. You get what I'm saying? But now it's like, no, you could literally just run ads. Like, you can target people now. You can make people have to see it. Where they're like, oh, I think I heard it, or I think I saw that, and it's like, I'm just seeing like fucking Darth Sidious over here, like, yeah, like the Grammys, American Music Awards, and it's these fucking kids and people I'm talking to and executives that just, like I said, it's this energy where it's just like
they're being affected by that.
Yeah, it's like when you watch Star Wars, when you're watching the movie, you're like, Anakin, he has the high ground. Don't do it. That's dumb as fuck. Like, you're just mad. You're going to the dark side of the Force, bro. Chill. Obi-Wan is trying to tell you, dog, just stop. Just fucking stop. We can just go back. We can fix it.
Yeah.
And it's like every executive, manager, label head, artist that I talk to is like, I hate you. And they like take the leap. And it's like, motherfucker, you don't have to do this.
But I'm saying they don't know examples of what's working.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's what it goes back to. Like, it's so rare.
There's no we can only go off our reference point, and there's no reference point.
People don't know the reference points.
But then you see a Russ, and then it just feels annoying.
And they refer to Russ. To me, Russ is the new Jay-Z.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's other independent artists that are doing millions of views.
For sure.
Besides Russ.
Big X the Plug too, though. I would say Big X the Plug is in that same ballpark to me of like, these are independent artists. Like, these are fully operating machines. It's just like, I think it's just so
they're spending like big label money though.
No, for sure.
So it's like
not out the gate though. That's a gradual.
Independent doesn't mean broke.
That's a gradual. Yeah, for sure. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I want you to be independent with your artist and not be broke.
Yeah, of course. I'm just saying, like, I feel like Russ
and Jay-Z and them were spending money.
Oh, of course. I just feel like Russ, and maybe this is just me, it's just like I feel like Russ, the way I see Russ is like he really did that shit by himself. I'm not saying he didn't have help from a distributor from time to time, and like I think he like faded in and out of different situations, but like, and I know the whole story of Big X, so I know that they came up through the mud, like they did it themselves, but like they're definitely getting like
funding,
enough money now to get it to where it needs to go.
Right?
But I think that's the work. Like, it's like brick by brick. And I think my point of view from like being a different sides of the table, you got to put down 1,000 bricks, or you got to do something that's really, really impactful, and then you get the money. I think a lot of people expect the money, and like I said, like, they can't sell out that venue. They can't do those things. Like, I can't walk up to a kid of a certain age group and say, you know the song, and they know it, but they still want that certain amount of money. And my thing is like, yeah, you know, there's so many people who have what is it called? Like those like unofficial deals before you sign a record label, and they get the money, and nothing happens. So to me, I've never been the thought that like you need a bank, you know. But
I'm gonna say this, but I'm a Wale fan, so like I bought Ambition when it came out, but everybody just feel like Wale. You know what I'm saying? With this Casanat shit, it feel like Casanat is the future, and everybody Wale. And everybody
get context for people who don't know about what happened at the awards.
Wale, do you know about this? This is great. Black entertainment television. Black shit. Casanat, big streamer, is walking to his car at the BET Awards. He's streaming the whole shit. He sees Wale, huge artist, Bruno Mars, Lotus Flower Bomb.
DC, DMV, put on the map.
Lady Gaga on his first like big single, like that guy. To me, I'm 31. Casanat's like, oh, what's up, man? Like, he sees me, he's like, what's up, man? He's like, what you playing on your Nintendo Switch? He get in the car. He's like, oh, man, that dude was cool. Y'all play the Switch? Like, and then people in the chat are like, oh, that was Wale. He's like, oh, Whaley. He's like, that was Whaley? He's like, oh, apparently that was somebody big. He's like, oh, okay, I didn't know him. He's not shitting on him at all. He's literally aloof to the shit. An hour and a half later, he's sitting down at the BET Awards. Wale comes up to him. He's like, yo, that shit you did like an hour and a half ago, it's already going viral. Like, you got me looking crazy. Like I'm just irrelevant type shit. So then, like, 2 days later, he sits down on a stream and he's like, I don't know this nigga. Like, it's nothing personal. I do not know him. He's like, give me some songs. So they give him Lotus Flower Bomb. He types it in YouTube. He plays it. He's like, oh, nigga, I know this song. This shit is crazy. This is a classic. This is a hit. He's like, let me see when this shit came out. He's like, 2011. He's like, bro, I was 9. Like, I was 9. I don't know. What I'm talking about and why I say everybody's Wale is like, if you saw 106 in Park, then you're talking like, ooh. But if you were the kid watching 106 in Park, but then you knew it was cooler shit that should have been on there, like if you were a Currency fan, like I was a Currency fan, so I'm looking at what's on TV and I'm like, oh, that shit's not really that tight to me because I'm on Two Dope Boys or Nah Right or on Smash or Ill Roots looking at hella cool shit that none of y'all fucking with. I don't see it nowhere. So my barometer of cool has never been, since I was 14, has never been what Currency don't have no Grammys. Never. You know what I'm saying? And he's not less cool to me. He rich by my standards. He got all the cars he want. He got a kid. He living cool. That shit's tight. Wiz, Dom Kennedy, blah, 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 blah. Cool kids, whoever you want to name. So what I'm saying is that like these kids, I feel like are seeing Casanat, and Casanat is publicly talking about not taking money from corporations. So, but he's rich as fuck. So these kids, I feel like, are growing up, and this is what me and Ace were talking about. I was like, I feel like we're in the generation of like the first Jedis. Like we're the Empire. These kids,
for sure. They're building themselves.
Yeah, they're not even thinking about the Grammys. It's like, oh, that's cool, like that's tight, but the Grammys is gonna have to call me to validate the Grammys. I'm not validated by the Grammys. Like this shit is a cultural movement, and the Grammys, just to make sure they stay alive, have to go get Anakin. Because if you don't, this shit not gonna work. Like Anakin's the future. So when I see Kai, and I see the Wale moment, it's like, fuck, bro. Like, instead of thinking to yourself like, damn, I've never gone on Kai's stream. I've never done it. So why would he know who I am?
Yeah.
Like I gotta go to them and go to these platforms. And that's what I'm saying, is that there's this empire that recognizes this Jedi faction thing that's about to happen, and they're trying to give Doechii a Grammy and give Beyonce album of the year and make the right calls to be culturally relevant. And then there's a group of people that are excited about that and like, oh, the Grammys got it right. And then there's a group of kids that are like, we were gonna fuck with Doechii regardless.
And I want to give a good example of when these two worlds align, right? So, like, one of the biggest electronic producers, artists, is Fred again, this British, guy who's been killing it for the last, 4 or so years. One of the biggest streamers right now is Blackboy Max. He went from streaming. He's a producer. He's done like albums with like big names in like Atlanta, big names in the UK, things like that. He gave like DDG a Billboard charting single. I think it got a Billboard, but it did pretty well. And a couple months ago, Blackboy Max met up with Fred again, and they made a song together. And it was on stream, and it did really, really well. And Fred again is on a major label, and then they got Skepta on it, and then Skepta and Fred again did this song, and it just came out last night. And then to capitalize on that, last night I was at Brooklyn Paramount, one of like the most gorgeous venues in New York City, and they had a show that was announced, minutes. And there's like lines down the block to get into. It's very rare when I go to concerts when there's girls begging, saying, "Do you have a ticket that I can get?" That's super rare. Like Fred again is in a class that's unheard of. But back to my point about taste, a lot of people I know, frankly, aren't really hip to what Fred again's been doing the last few years. And this is an example of taking live streaming, meaning Blackboy Max, who's been killing it mostly in the hip hop space, taking international collaborations with Skepta. And Skepta has this party called Mas Tiempo, and he's been like doing great things in the electronic world and like doing stuff in New York and around the world. And then Fred again, and then the label comes in, and all these worlds come together. And like Blackboy Max doesn't need a record deal, but he does have a record deal. And that's why when he puts these collaborations, it's getting support that it wouldn't have before. Like Fred again doesn't need Blackboy Max, but at the same time, the hip hop audience is not really hip what he's doing right now. And then like all these things are come together, and then you have a live moment, and it really takes a new level. So I think it's like one of those cases of like, it can be done well. Like if I was Wale, you're in album cycle right now with Def Jam, like pivot. You know what I mean? Hop on a stream, do something, do whatever. But I think once again, people are not bringing the people in the room who knows this and amplifying these people. Like I said, my first point. And the people in the room are not trying to think on their feet and trying to pivot. And it's like, okay, I might not like how this turned out, but how can I make the most out of this?
Yeah. Just to close out, LL said something on the Joe Budden podcast that I liked a lot when they asked him why he put out an album. This was like 6 months to a year ago. LL just put an album out, and he was like, man, like, I'm still good at rapping. Like, I'm still really, really good at rapping. And instead of like me sitting on podcasts just talking about how like this generation doesn't appreciate bars or just complaining about it, I'm gonna put an album out.
It was Sexy Red on the focus track.
Right. And he's like, if I want young people to know who I am, I gotta play the sport. Like, I gotta do the thing. Wale ain't put out an album out in 5 years. And the Wale Kai thing for me is just an analogy. I want to take it off Wale because I'm legit a Wale fan and like I support Wale. But it's an analogy for me of like all the stuff where it's like, if you really that fucked up as a label head where you feel like there was a better era than now, it's like, how much time are you spending like watching Kai Cenat stream? Like let that shit play.
They're not.
Yeah. Let that shit play on TV.
Not even clips on YouTube.
I promise you it will feel closer to like watching Jackass or Real World or Big Brother or Survivor. Like we've always been in live streams. The TV just dictated when we could stop seeing it. But Big Brother was a real TV show where we really watch people do regular shit on camera. Yeah. Real World was a real TV show where a bunch of strangers went into a house who didn't know each other and we just watched motherfuckers interact. So this isn't like some crazy new shit. You're just old and you're not consuming the new shit and you don't understand it. So now you just want to make the empire great again. And it's like, dog, it was never great. It's better than it's ever been. It's more innovative than it's ever been. It's easier than it's ever been. It's brighter than it's ever been. So yeah, this was so good. I knew that question was going to get it popping. I'm doing so much better thanks to Wolf.
One thing too, it's almost like it might feel inorganic to try to put yourself in those situations or new mediums, but it's easy to think about how to translate yourself into it. I don't know if it's a better word, but like,
I get it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's ways of.
But that's the job. That's what I'm saying about LL. Yeah. That was my point about LL. LL versus Wale. LL is older than Wale, has been in the game longer than Wale. Yeah. But LL has the self-awareness to go like, oh no, like if Sexy Red is what the kids are fucking with, I'm gonna go listen to that, consume that, see the rhyme schemes and the patterns and the production, and I'm gonna go play. As a label head, I'm 32. I'm not fucking 14 anymore. At 14, I probably had the best taste. I was the kid tweeting and complaining about what labels signed and didn't sign. At 32, I'm now in a position where I can sign some shit. So now I'm talking to the 19-year-old videographer and be like, yo, what are you listening to? How are you finding it? And then following the shit and feeling the discomfort of like, oh, I'm just old as fuck. Like, I don't really care about this shit.
Do you like Two Hollis? I love Two Hollis.
You feel me? It's shit like that that I'm looking at and I'm
I love talking about
into.
Two Hollis of older people or people my own age.
I got like these YouTube
this
playlists.
random shirtless blonde man.
Yes. It's like there's like, you know, the slowed reverb anime YouTube community. I don't know if you like know this shit, but it's like,
bro, those shit that goes crazy.
That's like a whole fucking community that for me I'm like, oh, this is weird as fuck. And then I play it in the background while I'm cleaning my house enough, and I'm like, oh, this is like chopped and screwed. Like for me and my generation, this was like chopped and screwed Texas shit. For these kids, it's Mac DeMarco, Chambers of Reflection, slowed and reverb, like in parentheses, and then it's like fucking clips of like Studio Ghibli and like fucking like anime shit and like Wong Kar-wai movies playing over this shit while they're doing it. And it's a whole. It's like 300 songs of just these kids slowing and reverbing it, and that's just their thing. And I'm like, oh, this is like DJ Screw, and like, oh, okay, like I can analogize it to something that's kind of familiar. I really don't get it. I'm not necessarily about to like dive into this shit, but I did discover like 6 artists that when I looked into it, I was like, oh, they're all independent. They don't got deals on these records. I see the comment section on this YouTube video of kids that are like, oh, who found this from TikTok? Who found this from this? Who found this from this? And I'm like, who the fuck is that? And then I'm clicking on that, and I'm like, oh, this motherfucker is like the god of this little niche community over here. That's our job. It's not on the cult. You get what I'm saying? So it's this like shit feels like Wale being like, Kai, why don't you know me? And Kai's like, bro, I was born I was 9 in 2011, bro. I know your song. I know about 106 in Park, but I didn't live in that shit. So like, we're doing what we're doing. We're putting our music out the way we think we should put it out. And it's dope. And going back to what you're saying about decision makers, I think that's where like this whole disconnect is like a bunch of motherfuckers sitting in their ivory tower that are wishing it used to be the way that it was. And then the Jedis are like force pushing and like learning how to do cool new shit. And they're just like, what the fuck is that down there? What are those lightsabers? What is that? Like, I miss the days of just galactic warfare. You know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, like it's new shit happening. Just go down there, be uncomfortable, as LL said, and then show that you still have great taste. Because if you hang out long enough, good music is still good music. Like the newer kids, if you like Mac DeMarco, there's still new shit out there that you will now dive into and be like, oh, this is derivative of that, which is derivative of this. It's just not getting the attention it deserves. And now I'm in position that we can go put 20K behind some shit to go get it on these places to get it more eyeballs. Talking about Anastasia and things like that. It's like Anastasia doesn't have a crazy amount. I think she's at like 130 monthlies on Spotify. Was in the Kendrick Lamar Luther video, like an 8.6 or something like that on Pitchfork.
Best new music.
Yeah, best new music on Pitchfork.
Of course, one thing, best new music, something else.
Right. It's touring right now. Just sold out public
Jules
records.
Holland.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like she's doing the steps. It's not a data thing that we're looking at. It's Key's taste. Like it's Key just being like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
And this is Stas being like, I don't want to be anything but myself. I don't even want to tour and go to the same venues people go to. I want to go to cathedrals and churches and places with different acoustics. Like I care about the acoustics of this project and like how it's performed. So it's shit like that it's like Stas ain't like a household name by far. She was in, if you go see Kendrick Lamar and you look at the screen, she's on that screen. It's the biggest screen you could be on. People may not know who she is, but the people who do know, this is a moment for them of being like, look at Anastasia on the biggest screen in the world. And then they're seeing her in a venue that holds like 180 people, 200 people.
Because it's a cool audience that like cares about Newport Jazz Festival
Yes.
or like Newport
Yes.
Folk Festival
Yes.
and like things like that. Like it's like that's a scene, and like we're not just talking about Tracy Chapman. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
like you know, like we know about the new people. We're championing those. We follow the content creators. We're talking about Black folk artists and like, you know, things like that. And we're like, okay, I love these 8 people, and I like saw that person do an album playback, and they were like complaining that their label doesn't get them, and they hate going in these rooms, and they feel like no one gets them. Okay, we finally have Anastasia, because I'm a fan of all these 8 other people, and that person's like popular. That person got those looks, but Anastasia is the one that's like, all the pieces are coming together right now.
Yeah.
And it might not be like, you know, Sabrina Carpenter level yet, but at the same time, for us in this niche, we're like, okay, but we haven't seen anything go this far before.
Right.
And we know for sure that like this is saying, if you like the OGAR, there are Grammy categories for this. We know that like these type of places are going to give you different looks at something else that might be considered a dime a dozen is not going to be prioritized for. But this one, it can be straight to the front of the pack, because it's not a lot of examples like this. And if it is, it doesn't have like the visuals like this. It doesn't have the aesthetic like this. It doesn't have like the background of you playing at, you know, the Apollo and all these types of things. Like they don't have this story of like them trying to do it over time.
Right.
But
No, 1,000%. 1,000%.
so the next topic.
Yeah. Magic Wand waved. AI. Boom. Mike, what do you want to talk about it? There's a lot of things happening. You shared an article in the group chat around the bill. Also, the labels are now talking to Suno. I haven't looked in it in the last like 2 weeks. I don't know what the updates are.
Yeah,
but
what are your article? You wrote something. What did it say?
Yeah.
I mean, it was mostly about, I think the headline was, creative industries can't keep pace with AI if they overlook what's already working. And you said that phrase, what's already working, actually like 5-10 minutes ago. And this was mostly about, so I've been involved in legislation and policy stuff going out in the UK and here in the States, and
Talking to the mic.
oh yeah, and being involved in this whole policy legislative stuff, it's been, I think the thing that shook me was in one of these forums, what was said was, I forget how they worded it, but there was a distrust of essentially startups for consideration of solutions, which blew my mind, because like even the way we're talking about artists is they're kind of like startups, right? And they're showing people what's working, right? Or organic, or in this instance, right, with AI, it's like, I think the main thing is, and also the way you were talking about the differences of today versus 5, 10, 20 years ago, is startups are the bridge, right? Like there's startups that came in and disrupted every creative industry with AI. So what that means is
not to interrupt you, but just to kind of structure it for people listening, explain what's happening in AI to explain why they made the statement about startups. Like what is going on in AI? Because I think most people who are going to tune in just know that AI is bad. They're stealing shit from artists. Timberland is bad. Fuck Timberland. You know, whatever. Like that's the narrative. But it's like kind of explain like how we got to this point of what's happening with AI and like in super layman's terms, and then startups and how startups.
Yeah. So everything AI, may it be ChatGPT or any of these agentic things we're using, you know, you're typing in and you're asking for something, right? May it be, tell me, am I sick? What should I do with this? Or make me this song that sounds like this, right? So, and there's so much other shit. And I would put voice technology separate and some other technologies separate. But ultimately what's happening is everything that exists on the internet or in the world digitally has been stolen and scraped to create what is called a base model, right? So the base model of all these chat GPTs, Sunos, Udios, mid journeys that creates images. They all basically scraped the internet to train a base model that then they can train other models on top of that, meaning make me this something, or tell me about this, or give me, information.
Make a song that sounds like Jay-Z 99 Problems mixed with Red Hot Chili Peppers.
So the problem is that initial act is just the great steal. Like no one's been compensated. I think we talked about this some episodes ago, that essentially everyone has had their intellectual property stolen, and no one's really getting paid for any of that. And then some of these companies like ChatGPT, they're starting to have deals with, big media conglomerates, New York Times, others.
Or the government.
Which I don't know if we want to go into that. But but what's crazy is that even these deals that I'm getting, familiar with, they're also speaking of old playbooks and old times, and let's call them just the Stone Age, maybe is another way to put it. Mm-hmm. You can't apply the playbook from a Stone Age to the future. Like they're trying to create businesses or ways of saying, oh my God, you stole everything, you robbed my house. By the way, on the way out, can I figure out how you can pay me for half of my stuff and I won't ever see you again because you literally stole all my shit. So even the business models for all this stuff is everyone's trying to play catch up. But the funny thing is these companies have come and disrupted, and then the usual nature of thing is someone else comes along and creates a startup to solve those problems. Mm-hmm. And the fact that that's happened, and it's already been happening, people have created patents, right, to say, you could even say this creatively about music that we talk about. This is who I am. If you copy this as an artist, you're starting to copy my brand, right? Think about it in the same way. If you're an artist listening to this, like think of it this way between tech companies and music, right? You can't reproduce me unless you have a right to do that from me. Either you licensed it or you paid me or whatever it is. And there's startups that come into space that are trying to do what's called attribution. I can bolt onto you, Udio, and then help you, or Suno, and help you tell, you can figure out who got trained off of this to create the thing that you and I prompted today and what we prompt tomorrow to create a fucking opening track for this podcast, right? Which we'd never do. So there is technology to do this, but yeah. But the thing is that's crazy is that going back to decision makers, there's decision makers in, these government bodies, policy shapers that are attached to them, legislation that there was something that happened, less than a week ago that basically said, we're not going to try to put too much attention or focus on these startups because, for lack of a better way of saying it, they said we don't trust them. And if we do it also, the cost of what they try to do is they try to put it under the creative industries. Which is so ludicrous because the original sin came from a fucking startup.
He gets in his nerdy executive, which is so funny.
No, that's like,
keep going.
That's the joke. The creative joke is like, that's what everyone's talking about. And I was like, how are you creatives? Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, these are tech creatives. Most of these people that are coming with the solutions, and I'm thinking of like 3 companies that I won't name, and all 3 of them that are coming to solve this original sin of the future. Every single one of the main founders are either have a history with music or the creative sector, or come from a family that someone in the family is that voice that's saying, you got to fix this. I don't care that you're an, artificial intelligence physicist, this, that. There's a problem there. You can go fix that, and, me and you at the next holiday dinner will get along, right? Like, and that goes back to the human element, but then this legislative body, this situation is saying, we don't want that help. We don't want to work with those companies. So, I mean, literally, I think that was the other thing I mentioned is that the AI part of this is also, it's sweeping disruption that's on a macro sense, right? It disrupts the whole thing and the big picture. But the solutions, and this is the other thing, all the stuff I've been involved in is with other industries. I'm in these conversations and situations with like leaders of Netflix, leaders of newspapers in the UK and Daily Mail, and the Financial Times, and then there's me with the startup there, the only music startup that's in there, and like all this stuff, and they have this criticism, which in my mind blows my mind because you can never organize a group that size because every single one of those industries has a different problem. They're complicated in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that this is the other thing that I was just trying to say in this thing is the real solutions are in the micro because it's a macro problem, and industry-specific innovations are built to handle the complexity, which goes to what we've been talking about, in the podcast, is the difference of today, to your point. This new era, Jedi, whatever era, is the difference is that there are builders that are working to solve more complex problems in the past with thoughtful design about how this actually can help and work in the creative worlds, right? Like, so as we're talking about culture and music, and as this stuff is happening and unfurling in like the tech side of things, and specifically music, it still goes back to what we were saying at the top of this was control. And this is the thing that's really fascinating, is that, and the reason the voice area is really interesting is because labels don't have control over that disruption. Every artist, unless they're in a 360 or some other deal, they own the rights to their voice. So I've had, high-level conversations, with major friends and others, that they say, usually you do a deal with somebody at a major, company, label, whatever it is, and you have to do the deal team thing, and you get through that process, which could be crazy, and then they hand it off to the creative teams, the A&R, the label, whoever. They have to believe in that thing, whatever it is, to say, oh, we could do that with our creative elements and our teams and our artists. That stuff dies there. For the first time I've ever seen in 20 whatever years, is they say, you know what? Talk to the artists first. Talk to the management teams. Talk to them first. If they're interested, then come back to us. And then we'll take care of everything else. So if you think about it, it flipped in the way to what you were saying. Even though the decision-making is not happening at that stage, it's acknowledging the fact that the culture and the creative side has to want to do something now for the business to adopt it.
Yeah.
3 questions, kind of. One, like, what's the worst-case scenario? Because, for people listening, it's like I don't think we emphasize enough that, like globally, you're probably, like, one of the top, 25 authorities on AI in music, I would say. You don't have to say it, but I'd say it. As far as like your opinion shifting how people view AI rights in music. So one, what's the worst case scenario of how this all boils down?
There will be a complete wealth value transfer from the music industry to the tech industry. Meaning that streaming will be completely diluted by content. Everyone's going to make less money. And if there's this value transfer of just basically AI generated content that can just be freely created and no one's making another new revenue from it, like in this new arena of whatever this commerciality is, then it's just you're not gonna make new revenue from the new paradigm while the old paradigm starts to get, shriveled and pruned.
Do you know the Deezer stat? Because I think that adds a lot of context to it.
Was it 10,000? It was even bigger than that. It was the amount of AI generated tracks uploaded to Deezer a day was like, I think it was 10,000 tracks a day, and this was like earlier in the year. This was 10,000 tracks a day, and it was earlier in this year, and that's Deezer, which is of a particular size.
And it's went up since then, and I think it's like Deezer's the one that did the report on it, but if it's Deezer, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Music, it's all the same for all of them too. And I think that was really illuminating when I saw that, because it reflects things that I've seen myself, but I think it shows that you hear about these boogeyman stories, but in reality there's a bunch of stuff. And I've just seen in the last, I guess, year and a half, just so many cases of big name releases or big name artists, and there's AI claiming they put that out. And I think the closest thing that we see now, like if you look at number 1 on the Spotify viral chart right now, it's UGC upload, like a fake upload of Lizzo. Lizzo did a remix of one of the biggest songs out of Atlanta right now. The freestyle went viral on TikTok.
Shit? Oh, that's not real?
Well, she did that. No, so it's not
Oh,
AI.
okay.
It's not AI. But
I was about to be like,
Yeah.
bro, that shit go crazy. I didn't know Lizzo didn't do that, but go ahead.
Yeah,
She
but the
did do
closest
it.
example that we see right now that is normalized is the fact that someone does something, it goes on TikTok or they just upload to YouTube, and then someone like scrapes it, puts it through DistroKid or TuneCore,
Yeah.
and then everyone listens to it, and they're like, oh, well, if Atlantic Records doesn't put out this remix, I'll listen to this other version of the same audio. But I feel like AI is like the next frontier of that.
I mean, speaking of TikTok, Billboard, Kristen Robinson covered this, I think, a week ago
her.
or so.
Yeah.
I think it was like a week or so. She covered this where she found number 40 in the top 50 of TikTok was a purely generated AI song. And it was this kind of fake...
Oh, the bear?
the mid-century, like it was like a soul track. It was a soul track.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, Jenner and some other people used it in their videos and it just blew up. But like, and then people didn't know. Most people didn't know. But that's the beginning of this coming in and taking space. You know what I mean? So like...
So worst case scenario is 70% of music that people are listening to isn't created by real artists. It's created by AI that was trained on with a base model of all the music in the world. So it could have been Danny, make something that sounds like Danny and Pope Baby and Anastasia over a beat that sounds like it was done by this person. And none of those people get paid. And at the same time, none of those people are gaining the audience as much as they would have gained because now this AI shit is the biggest thing in the world. It is the new...
and it's diluting stuff. It's redirecting people's attentions, to your point. It's like, something doesn't get picked up, then they have another thing to swap in its place.
Right.
And it's just, the thing is, there's money on the table.
Right.
And the old guard is trying. I think the other thing is, the good thing with this tension is that it's fraying the things that are already broken, and it's also putting a lot of things out in public of what people can do and what people can't do. Meaning like companies, right? Like there's I mean, I think it's the biggest opportunity right now is for any company that's independent that can make quick, calculated decisions can really kill it in this environment. To your point about artistry, right? If you figure it out and you can do deals right and you could put pressure on certain things because you have culturally rich catalog artists, you can do a lot of crazy shit right now. And that's the thing is that...
What can they do? What's a positive example of something they can do?
That,
so there's a lot of these AI companies are looking to work with, rights holders, artists, labels, and they're going out there and trying to create these deals. If you're educated enough, meaning don't take a flat fee amount of money and give something away for training, someone trains on you, they don't ever need your catalog ever again. If you get a flat amount of money, that ship is sailed. You have to have a deal in place that you train, and every time something gets generated, you pay me money. It's almost like streaming is about consumption. We're consuming music, listening to it. This AI world is about influence. You're creating competition for streaming in your music. So the influence, every time I influence any piece of shit or anything that's great in AI, I better get paid for it. So it's an influence economy, not a consumption economy.
Yeah,
so it's different.
Yeah.
Which is what I said at the beginning.
Yes.
Not in the AI world. Not in the AI world, but it is a content creator's world. Like, they are the influence. Like, to give an example, like, we had somebody use my artist's song on a Drewski meme, and that meme did 5 million views, and then went over to Instagram. And then I saw a stream spike because of that meme.
Yes.
But it's because people want to see Drewski. And then the streams came in, which was just a benefit of that. And whether it's AI or it's Kai Cenat or it's Drewski or it's one of these girls in the content houses in LA, like that is the influence. And that comes down to, like you're saying, tech. Like everything is in tech's hand. Like that is, the philosophical aspect of culture and music, I think, has been dwindled down so much to this whole other world of putting these influencers and these platforms on pedestals. It's just like, I don't even, there's no point to that. It's just like, that is the point.
Mm-hmm.
I have no further point. It's just like, it's just crazy to think about.
Well,
Like,
what it makes me think about is that, like, and this is kind of the second question. It's like, what is the fight? Like, how do we...
Before we get to the second question, so we did a panel together for New York Music Month, right, about, AI and algorithms and all that type of stuff. And we had a really great, diverse conversation, and it was centered around actually having a real musician who's like has an amazing history on there. And I think one point that we kept coming back to, I think resonates with what you're saying, is how do you go back to the source? And that's the thing that we mentioned a couple times in the conversation. It's like, you can talk about the fifth level derivative something, but like, what is the equivalent of it? And like, I know about like content ID and like how to me that's innovative technology that someone can use your song in a video that Drewski did and it's on YouTube. YouTube's content ID is going to identify this is your audio and you're going to get paid unless you strike some type of deal. But what's the equivalent with AI? What's the equivalent of influence, which is like a very vague thing? Like, of course, you hear stories of people suing someone because, okay, it was influenced by this song that I did and I'm a small band or I'm huge. But what is the equivalent in the AI world? And I want to answer the question, but I think that was a point that we discussed a lot.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was basically what I was going to... Just to piggyback on that, this whole AI thing just makes me think, and I'm just adding to what you're saying, it just makes me think about kind of the inverse of what you just said, a smaller band saying a bigger person did. It makes me think about the Pharrell lawsuit with Marvin Gaye's estate. Right? Like, which is like... And when you watch his deposition, it's like, he didn't sample anything. He literally was like, I was just inspired by the groove of the Marvin Gaye record. And he lost that lawsuit. So when I think about... And that's like an actual lawsuit, so we can talk about like litigation and paperwork. But when I think about just like Michael Jackson giving James Brown credit and saying, you're the biggest influence I've ever had, it's like, well, what is that? Like, should James Brown have gotten like a percentage of Michael Jackson's shit because Michael Jackson did he based off of James Brown doing and then moving his feet left and right, and then Michael Jackson doing the same exact shit with a moonwalk? You know what I'm saying? Like, it gets really like in my head, if I'm fighting for AI companies, it's like, well, y'all have always kind of been influenced by some shit, and the person who you got influenced by didn't get paid every time. So why the fuck would we pay you just because something may have had a little bit of you in it? The innovation was in the prompter saying, I want something that sounds like Michael Jackson, Billie Jean, and Jay-Z 99 Problems. That was the innovation. So why the fuck should we pay either of y'all if the end product is something that's completely new that's never been heard? And I'm arguing it.
And I'll say this in a couple words. One thing that we said during the panel was, okay, someone can break down all the elements of what makes, James Brown and put that into the prompt and get the same result than saying James Brown. And that's the thing about when it comes to the ideas, like, it's not the ideas like, well, every time someone puts in James Brown or Charlie XCX or whatever's in vogue, Lola Young, whatever's trending at the moment, okay, a lot of people who are smart are going to reverse engineer and be like, okay, I want to have this element, and then you're going to get the same results. And the thing is, how do you, I don't know, stress test that?
It's so to what you're both saying. One thing, it's the human comprehension to be inspired and then create something that's original, but you could feel there's like a derivative, line to it. That's still human comprehension. That's still the chain of inspiration to something, right? Like, so many bands have thought that they were doing something and it totally went off. But it created something pretty amazing because it was them trying to mimic something like I think, what was it? Black Sabbath thought they were doing blues rock, right? That is
or
not blues
Nirvana
rock.
inspired by blues,
Exactly.
They're doing
like,
the covers. They showed it, but still,
It's just the human flaw takes it in the wrong direction, which ends up being right. But this machine learning kind of question that we're angling at is different because it's purely calculated based on the request of what it's going to create and the multitudes of things, the data or basically the music that creates what you were saying. And like Guillermo Brown, on that panel, like he was talking about how he embraces technology. He's trying to think of how he'll use different instruments. He's trying to create, like he was thinking, how do I use this to create a new pen stroke, that's the way to think about it, as opposed to clicking a button and then you get something, then product, which is in a way fine if every single piece that went into that gets paid. So now imagine, so this is the other thing to your question, the most understreamed deep jazz catalog that barely gets any play and love today could be one of the most valuable pieces of music when it comes to generative training, because it could be so focal to the structure of something.
Right.
So there is huge opportunity on things that are underutilized, underserved, but can be influential, but might not be as a package of music. It might not hit the way that someone say, I love this record, I want to listen to it, as opposed to the structure of this is like really important to create a part of something. So this and this is where I've been like really pushing, because it's a completely separate arena. It's another way to make money for the thing that you've built, which is music, song, the record. From a producer looking at it is different than a songwriter. Usually they could be the same person, right? There's a huge amount of opportunity. It's just that being in these rooms and conversations, there's companies. There's the conversation we loosely had about Aileen, who's from Surreal, who they do attribution as a surface. It's there. They own the patents to do this shit, and
a huge advocate for songwriters.
And a huge advocate for songwriters. And this could also flip the script for publishing, because a songwriter, arguably, the composition of a song has more weight in generative AI music than the recording.
Right.
So there's all this crazy nuance that's really exciting. But then now imagine we take our conversation, let's just jump into a DC Senate discussion or in Parliament in UK. God bless us all. Like, but you see what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, I think it's, but I guess what I'm saying, and it's kind of devil's advocate, but I do somewhat take the position of like, and this is, I guess, kind of leading into the third question I have around it too, is just like, you said it with Guillermo.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the rhetoric around AI and a lot of the backlash that I think Timbaland's faced, to me, is like people who are taking more of an optimistic approach to AI. And I feel like that's not being discussed enough. Where I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, there's things that are going to be trained and so forth and so on, but you're also going to have like an entirely new sector of creatives that I feel like isn't being talked about. Like, I think about like what Serato or just what DJing did for music, like just people playing records, right? Like, I think about what, the synthesizer and just the technology around music creation in the 80s, and Quincy Jones and Herbie Hancock working with Rhodes to determine what buttons and what features needed to be there. Like, oh, we need to be able to tweak tone, we need to be able to tweak treble, we need to be able to tweak bass in these instruments. At that time, people said that the synthesizer was going to destroy music, because prior to that, it was saxophones and trumpets and pianos. There would be no more real instruments, right? Which in some instances is kind of true, but it doesn't change people's respect for it when we see it. Like, when we see real instruments, we go like, oh, this is serious. Like, they got a real band, right? But it didn't necessarily ruin anything, because we just started falling in love with whatever came from the sounds that came from the 80s, from Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and just from all these like new weird sounds that came out of the 80s. Fucking Gary Newman and like all this area of shit that at the time when it came out was just dope. So I don't think people are really talking about the concept of like the music prompter, like a new person who introduced themselves. Oh, I'm a music prompter, and they have music on Spotify, and they just prompt really well. Like, they just are insanely gifted at thinking about how to combine
architecting.
I mean, let's be real. That's what some A&Rs are. Sure. Like some like really great A&Rs are like great at like, okay, put this together.
Put this producer, this songwriter. And
that's what it is.
Artist,
they themselves might not be able to like do things on the boards. I think another space that I've been seeing a lot, and you probably read like the A16Z article about like GEO. It's like SEO, search engine optimization. Like, you want to be in the first page when you Google something. And now this new thing that's popping up where it's like, okay, how when someone refers to, I'm DJing my 16-year-old son's having a birthday party, and I need to know the most relevant songs in, June 2025. Like, it's a lot of different things that could be.
Yep.
But like that person, whatever the top things that pop up, that's their truth, right? That's the new, Google that, and there's going to be a Billboard article of the songs of summer. And the thing is, I think we're going to have a new type of world when it comes to content creation, where people are going to find ways to make content that's going to optimize them to like pop up in these LLMs and these like, these Claude or ChatGPT and things like that. And I was kind of playing around with it, and it's like, I was like figuring like, okay, if I search my name, what comes up? What context am I going to be the top of the pack the same way I'm referred to a musician is? And like, for me, the thing is like, okay, there's not a lot of Black people that have worked in like indie music publishing. Like if you search Black person, indie publishing, I'm probably on the first page because that same Billboard writer wrote about me. You know what I mean? Like that is going to come up, all these things. But like, I think when it comes to being niche as a musician, is kind of the idea of like, okay, how do you make sure that you still exist almost? And kind of like in the same type of things, like, okay, it's one thing you're on the 5th page in a Google search, but you're the biggest person in like, Seattle. But if everything's kind of going digital, I'm curious, like, what's this new content that's being produced? How's that going to affect, people worry about an algorithm. At least I can go to your page, you know what I mean? Versus this is no user pages on, ChatGPT. It's just like, this is it. So I'm curious if you have thought about that like concept, and especially how does it apply to content creations and creativity and music?
It was, what this reminds me of? It was when the smart speaker came out, and it was.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
and not to name names and companies, and I was at a major at the time, and it was kind of funny, the scramble, because it was like warfare between the 3 companies. I was like, oh fuck, when someone says, Alexa, play me jazz, what's the fucking jazz track it's gonna play? Right? And that became a huge play of, okay, how do we get this? We got to get to these companies. We got to make sure that there's a particular list of these things, and we're on there. And
I've built something like that before, and it's very, very like, not in voice, but in another format, and it's very difficult of like, how do you define things for everyone in humanity?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the question. To
Yeah.
give you something more specific to kind of speak to, I guess, is just like, what's the optimistic side of this whole shit? Because I feel like everything in AI is just, people aren't going to get paid. It's going to ruin the music industry. It's going to ruin everything. It's not real. Film's going to be over. Everything's going to be over. It's like, well, what's the optimistic side of this from your perspective?
Optimistic where it's realistically going to land, or optimistic like best case?
Realistic. I think people want to know where we really going to sit at. Streaming did what streaming did, and we're here now.
I mean, I think voice is so clear and who owns what, which the commercialization of it has been really quiet, but it's been really clear. Like I'm working with a few major label imprints, and the A&R teams are like thinking about how to use it for utility for the first thing or second thing. They're thinking about how they like to use it for, developing an artist, showing an artist how they could maybe have her sing a different genre, kind of branch out.
I love that.
There's like, other ways of preserving someone's voice because they know that their voice is going to blow out in 10 years. Like they're being really creative about it. And going back to what we were all saying earlier, like I have a newfound respect for the next class of people working at these labels. And I think that's going to keep evolving. And I think the main thing to call out that I haven't been really vocal about it yet, but if you create a vocal model for yourself as an artist or your artist as part of your team, like right now, to use it privately for your team, for your producer, whatever, you still did a second thing. You did another thing at the same time. You created a source of truth. Legislation's not there yet. Policy's not there yet. But you can actually say, wow, there's a vocal model for my artist at that platform. I heard a weird song on this platform that I could tell that's my artist's voice, da-da-da. You can legally take all that down because you have a commercial, legitimate contract with a company over here that's hosting your voice model.
Yeah.
So that, to me, is the beginning of setting precedents, and then everybody's iterating what that looks like. Like there's a lot, and And that branches out to people doing that for commercials, socials, radio edits, B2B things and advertising. Like it's the avenue is really positive there.
What departments are you talking to, and what like dynamics, like skills, are the people more like receptive to it? Like what traits do they have? But what departments are you talking to?
It's the A&R teams. It's because and in 2 instances, invited me to the studio where they have dedicated engineering teams, and that's the other thing. Those are other cooks in an adjacent kitchen, right? Like they have artists constantly coming through, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." So wait a second, I had a 30-minute session. They came late. I only had 14 minutes. And I only have 10 minutes of content that I recorded or audio that I recorded, a vocal for this thing. And they messed up like these 2 words. What do I do? If I had this in play, I could fix this. I'm done. We don't have to bring them back because it's costly and probably won't happen, right? Like they're coming to their real world, immediate problems that they could service. You could service them with that utility. And I think that's the beginnings of everybody owning their shit, fixing and working in a different way. To like you're talking about tools, I got a different canvas or a different palette of colors, and then different sounds start coming out. People are starting to mess with like creating a 30-piece chorus with all different voices because you just create models that are legitimate people, and it there's so much creativity there. The generative music side is the one that's like the massive wild card that realistically some of these companies are going to eventually be taken down. And like the big ones, like one of them probably will be have a really crazy litigious time over the next 12 months. And then, it'll be like the Tesla Rivian thing. One of them is going to get bad attention for good reason, and the other one's going to take the opportunity to be like, I'm going to play this smart, and I'm going to be smart about who the customer is, and I'm going to work with the people in the industry to be the front runner. I think that's going to happen. And when that happens, we all can get around some company or companies to be like, all right, cool, I feel good giving them my money because I'm paying into that eventually, like, this is the funny thing. If I'm a producer, artist, whoever, and I'm using these platforms and I'm paying money and it doesn't go to the creative sphere, that means that I'm not going to get paid either. Because if that money goes into this company and it's going back to the artists, producers, songwriters, then I'm going to get paid when it's me influencing these outputs, my records, my body of work. So there needs to be anointments there that happen that these companies are legitimate, that then people should get around them, support them. Because right now, even the Timbaland thing, it's not legitimate. I don't give a shit what anybody says. It's not legitimate because the people are not getting paid behind that. Unless it's company. There are companies that they train like Needles. If Needles wanted to do this, he can take his whole body of work. There's a company called Delphos. They work basically only with producers. Producer just puts their whole catalog in there, and they could be like, here you go. Here's the Needles toolkit. Yeah. You can create crazy stuff.
I guess
I own all this. And you know what I mean? Like there's ways that this is being done to what's working. Like what that point I made and what you said earlier. You got to pay attention to what's working. Right. Like that's and it's hard to do right now.
Did you use LimeWire?
I did.
Okay. You use LimeWire? Yeah, when I was a kid, we used LimeWire. I didn't give a fuck that was ruining the music industry. Like when I see a lot of this AI shit, I'm like, again, I'm 30 now, so I care. But I was burning everybody's newest shit. I for sure sold in school the Carter 3 in the cafeteria. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just like, so when I think about AI, did you shape culture by doing that? Did you share like my culture? Yeah. Like in my area.
Yeah.
Like motherfuckers knew I had the Carter 3 because I figured out how to search on LimeWire what it was actually under, because it wasn't under Lil Wayne the Carter 3 because it was getting strike downs on LimeWire. Yep. It was under I can't remember who it was, but it was like some Japanese artist or some shit. But that was the whole Carter 3 leak. So I had the Carter 3 leak, and then I downloaded it, put it on a USB drive, and then I was burning CDs with my homeboy Edward. We used to call him Egg Roll. and we was selling that shit. So when I think about if I'm 15, and I feel like that's the mentality Timberland kind of made that play from, is like, if I'm 15, I don't really give a fuck if like Jay-Z doesn't get paid for like me being like, oh, make me a song that sounds like, you know, filling it with like the production of Kanye, College Dropout era, with a little bit of Mos Def in it, and then that shit's tight, and then I can like put that shit on SoundCloud and like post like a cool video on TikTok, and then everybody in my school is like, oh, this shit is ill, and I'm like, yeah, I did that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really give a fuck. So do you?
But that's,
how do we think about that, or what do we think about?
I think it's still important to do what you did. I think it's important because the technology shows up from wrong means, and then you might be doing something wrong, but you're shaping culture of adoption of what it is, because you're still spreading that record, right? You're still telling people, this is worth your attention, check this out. And eventually, LimeWire died and all this other stuff, but whoever you shared that with knows that record, trusted you. Whatever else happened, there's probably millions of things that happened from that exchange. But that like, I think what has to happen is the culture has to shape around it, as say the business and everyone else starts to figure out how to shape that around the culture. It's a counterculture stage. And we don't know fully how it's being used. We know people are stemming shit out and using it, but yeah, go ahead.
I think I always come from the pro artist side, and this is a conversation I've had with my artists, and I think the reason Timbaland's getting so much pushback is because how many artists would kill for an opportunity to be signed to him, even if like he might not be the most relevant, whatever, it's still Timbaland. Like, it's still headlines of Timbaland signs this artist.
Yeah.
And so I think the where everyone's coming from is like, there are so many artists that are struggling to like just be heard or seen, and would kill for a spot. Like, I have a friend who, like, I remember like Timbaland played her song on one of his lives, and everyone was like freaking out, right? So it's like, and he's giving it to like, and granted, there's somebody behind this AI tool, but it's like, as an artist, he understands so well how difficult that shit is. And so I think, like, there's this expectation as an artist that you pay it back to other artists.
Yes.
Not that he has to, and, like, you know, he's making a business decision. I know what Donnie's going to say, but it's like...
I'm just saying, man, managing the motherfucking, man, I love... Can you just imagine you just tell it to make the song and then just nothing, like...
Well, the other thing,
that's what session musicians are too, though.
Facts.
You know, like, you hire session musicians who are equipped at doing these things, and you say, I want to have this, and they'll do it.
Right.
So I'm saying, I feel like nothing's new under the sun.
Facts.
And once again, yes, you can have, there's a big famous person, but there's also someone's uncle that only has vinyl sold in Wichita, Mississippi. I'm just making up cities now. You know what I mean? That can do the same thing, because forever, one thing is 9 billion people who are in the same lane. So once again, I always go back to do your research back. So
real quick before we get out of here, you want to close us out on the AI thing, because I want to talk about new music before.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think it'll create a schism. And you'll tell when there's a session musician that plays a part, and they're just kind of, you know, fuck it, I'm going to go loopy. I'm going to go a little weird here, you know? Like, the weird will be more embraced than the, you know, where... the one controversial thing to say is, was it Tata? Or what the hell is the fucking AI artist name? I think it's Tata or some shit, which is weird. It means father in Polish, or it means dad. But, like, how do you create the persona?
Yeah.
And how do you? And also the thing never sleeps and never complains, and never disagrees with direction. So like, there's something to that.
It's a Furby versus a dog.
Yeah. Actually, that's really good.
Yeah.
Do you really give a shit? Like, and not
it goes to that AI that iRobot clip I sent in the chat though, bro. It's we wax poetic about all this shit humans done, and it's like, you know. Can you create the Sistine Chapel? Can you paint the Mona Lisa? Can you do Beethoven? Can you make a symphony like Beethoven? And it's like, shit, can you? You know what I'm saying? Like, can you? Like, we talk about like one human out of like 20 billion people on the earth. So I just think about that.
And I'll just wrap this up to your point about eras and people talking about past eras versus this era. I am excited about this era,
Right.
But I think if I had to explain to someone who asks, like, what am I doing in this space? I'm trying to protect artistry. I'm trying to, like, so many of these digital things have happened and they weren't built all the way or designed right. Like, I just want to be in the room and try to do whatever I can amongst others to help, shape it the right way. But it is still exciting. Who knows what's going to come out, and one day we'll see. We'll be like, oh my God, it's an amazing record. Can't believe it came out this way or it was created that way. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, before we get out of here, does anybody have any new music that they fucking with?
Theodora. Okay. Theodora is my favorite artist. This fire artist out of France. Her breakout song came out like end of last year, but it got like viral this year. It was called like Congolese BBL with like a K. And if you know artists like Brie Runway or like Doechii, a francophone artist that has that same vibe. And I've just been listening to a lot of French music, and it's like this kind of like francophone Caribbean genre called bouillon that's like been inspired a lot of my favorite stuff like out of Nigeria and then like the Caribbean and obviously like France. But like to me, Theodora is like, I don't know, just like Missy Elliott style and like visuals and things like that. Like, and I just love listening to genres that I like are not English, because that's, I feel like my like highest form of taste making is when I'm like hearing an album before it comes out and I'm like, oh, that's going to be the single. And then that becomes like one of the biggest songs in the country. Like, like I know I got it because I don't even know what you're saying. I just know it sounds good. And like, I don't really know any French. But at the same time, I'm obsessed with like cool, crazy black music. And there's a lot of black people around the world that speak French. So like, to me, French is like the best genre when it comes to understanding like the diaspora from my point of view. But yeah.
That's fire.
Anybody else? I like the new Clips record. That's all I've been listening to that shit on repeat for like the last many days. And I just like Pusha calling out like mixy niggas. Like I'm a big, me and an artist I manage named Pope Baby was talking last night. We was like, man, like me and him have been talking for the last 2 years, trying to figure out how the fuck has Travis Scott been able to navigate and be this fucking mixy. He hung out with Kanye, did the Sicko Mode record, did this Kanye, hung out with Drake, put that record out, and then also asked if he could break like that when he was with Future. It's like, man, how the fuck is he moving around? Like, is he like gangster? Like, is he just that tough that nobody did shit? So I really love Pusha. Shout out Pusha T for calling out mixy niggas. It made me want to call out mixy industry niggas too, because I definitely met people that pull up in the room, say one thing, and then completely walk out the room and be like, man, I cannot wait to drop this diss record. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. Good Clips records. Pharrell is back. I think Pharrell is pissed off. I think he heard everybody saying the beats wasn't good without Chad, and now he's mad too. So my little shout out.
He's like mad people.
I found this artist. I did a giveaway on Instagram and TikTok for like a free music video, because I'm very, as you guys know, very pro artist, and I feel like if the least I could do for an artist that doesn't have money is pick up my camera and like shoot something for them, like I'll do that. But I found this artist. Her name is Mayher. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that, but it's Meher, and she's fire.
Love that. Nice. Is there a song you like?
Yeah, it's called Moon. I just shot a video for her. I have to edit it.
There we go.
I have to finish editing.
Maybe out by this time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard of it's a duo, Hermanos Gutierrez. They're two brothers, guitarists. They do, I would call it like Latin picking guitar, but not in the really trite traditional sense. Like they do it differently, and like slide guitar and stuff. But they started guesting on other people's records, and artist I never even heard of, and I still can't remember the name, but it just like popped up in my streaming recommendation, and it was just I've listened to it on repeat like over and over again. I'll mention it next time. Whatever.
Fuck yeah!
But it was one of those things like, you know, when you just hear a song and you're like, oh, that's
right. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm Donnie.
I'm Sabrina.
I'm Melanie.
I'm Mike.
And this is the Work Podcast.